Hello, welcome to Kini TV, and I'm joined now by Cynthia Ong, who is a Suluk-Sabahan. And now, Cynthia, recently you posted a Facebook status that went quite viral. Could you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, actually, it was not an easy decision to write what I wrote. I was feeling extremely uncomfortable for a couple of days, just looking at what was, being published online in various articles and Twitter and Facebook posts, and I just decided, one evening that I had to speak my voice, and it just came out basically, and it was sort of really meant for, just to honor my family who are Part-Suluk, and it was really just to speak my truth in that moment.
So could you explain your background a bit? How exactly are you Part-Suluk?
My great-grandfather was full Suluk, and he came in the 1800s to Sabah from, I think he was from Palawan, and we're still trying to find out the real, his real history. And so that makes my grandmother half Suluk. And I was very close to her growing up. She lived with us for a big part of the time when I was growing up.
Okay, so as someone who is Part-Suluk, what do you think of what's going on in Sabah, or what has been going on in Sabah these last few weeks? You've said that you feel that some of the comments have been quite, just against Suluks in general, the comments have not been very fair. And do you think people have kind of forgotten that it's, there are Suluks who are in Sabah and who are Malaysian, and do you think that's sort of gotten lost with everything that's been happening of late?
I don't know. Even that, that's not an easy thing to answer. I think there's just been extremely heightened emotions. I think we're all in a kind of altered state of consciousness, if you like. I don't know if I've ever experienced the Sabah like this before, and I think we're all kind of seeing new sides of ourselves and new sides of each other and new sides of our own culture. And I think, and the one piece that has emerged is this sort of generalization I feel of Sulukness. I'm calling it, rather than anyone Suluk, but it just started to feel, as the days went by, it was starting to feel more and more personal, if you like, as the intensity of the comments and the emotions and all that started to come forth.
Okay, now I would just like you to, going back to that Facebook status that you wrote, there was a particular passage that you wrote about that elicited a few comments. You say, "I don't ask that we accept violence or armed aggression, but perhaps if we can see them as a people, proud, strong, loyal warriors, and hold their right to sovereignty in the same way we hold our own, and in our hearts wish them peace and freedom, we can shift this energy from violence and fear to respect and resolution." Now, I'm sure you know that some were wondering what you meant by hold their right to sovereignty, whether that's an implication, whether that's an indication of how you feel on the matter, or what do you mean by that? If you could just explain that for us.
When I use the term sovereignty there, I didn't necessarily mean in the literal sense of sovereignty over a piece of land and authority over a piece of land. I think each person can be sovereign in that we feel an ability to determine our own future, determine our path, have a voice, and have a say in our destiny. And I meant it more from that sense. It didn't necessarily mean, having that they had a right to our land. That was not what I meant at all. The compassion I felt was for their right, as I want the same for myself, for their right to freedom and for their right to be seen as a people, the same that I would want for myself. I don't know I'm not an aficionado in terms of their history. or our joint history. I mean, I've been reading up a lot and learning a lot. It's been a steep learning curve. And you know, what I know is that they've been wanting to be heard and wanting to be seen for a long time from, you know, from their own people, by their own people. And you know, and so I mean, I think I wish that for all people, that you know, you can be seen and you can be heard and you can be acknowledged in your own right in the way that you identify yourself. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe that was the piece that was charged for people, because maybe it was understood as that I felt that they had a right to the sovereignty, you know, of our, you know, like the Sabah land, the land that they were landing on. But that was not what I meant.
Okay, so you said you've been reading some of the comments that have been left on, because Malaysia Kini published your status, and you said some of them are quite difficult to read. So let's talk about, what do you think are the biggest misconceptions at the moment, and what do you think we can do now moving forward? What would you like to see happen?
You're asking me some big questions. You know, like I said, I'm speaking very much from a personal voice. And again, navigating my own new emotions and feeling, you know, this myself within this, what feels like a new space, if you like. And I don't really don't think they're easy answers. I think what's been difficult, and like I said, I read a few comments and then I stopped, because I mean, although I did want to hear all voices, it just felt like I felt like I was not heard, and I think if I felt like I was not heard, even when I'm speaking, I feel calmly, and was not being violent towards anyone. I extrapolate from there, and I think, wow, I imagine those people who landed on the Lahad Datu shores probably feel, a much more extreme sense of not being heard or seen or even acknowledged. So, I mean, I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, but I imagine when someone is in that kind of situation that one would take extreme measures. So I guess, I mean, all the way from the beginning, I couldn't understand why dialogue and facing each other and truly engaging in a difficult conversation was not possible. And in fact, I even reached out to some of my state leaders, government leaders, and said, why, can we dialogue? And I would love to support that process. And what I was getting back from them was just this wall of, this is really clear that it's about, we have to move into aggression.
So you don't think enough was done to initiate dialogue?
Personally, if I was in a position to make a decision, the first thing I would have done on the first day was called all the key players to the table, and just put ourselves in a locked room with mediators and facilitators, and yeah, that's the first thing I would do. So I wouldn't have sent forces. I wouldn't, I mean, it's such a complex and deep issue that, there had to be really deep engagement and just giving the issue the respect it deserves. And to me, that called for leaders all the way to the very top to engage with each other. I mean, I don't understand how it works at those diplomatic levels. I don't understand. I mean, I personally, as someone who runs an organization, when there's a particularly intense issue, I don't ask for my team members to, go and, just make things easy for me or deal with it, because I didn't want to deal with it. I would, if things were complicated enough, it would just go right to the heart of it and have the difficult conversation. And I don't know if that effort was made.
Okay, so Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing what I imagine was a very difficult thing to express at a time of such conflict and polarized opinions. But we really appreciate you sharing out your perspective, and hopefully it gives our viewers some perspective on this very complicated issue as well.
Thank you.